Hey there. The other day, I promised you a video about finding your first and last frost dates and what those mean. And this is that video. Hi, I'm Mikara with More Prana Gardens. We are going to talk about frost dates. So if you are new to gardening, or if you are new to being methodical about your gardening, you might have heard of these last and first frost dates, and you might be wondering, what do I do with those and how do I find out when they are? Let's start with the how do they find out. You're going to pick a search engine, does not matter. You're going to type in average last frost date and then put your zip code in there. Hit enter. It's going to bring up a date. That is going to be an estimate of the last frost that you will experience in the springtime. Now, if you observe your property, you might have personal records that show you that it's earlier or later. And then you do the same thing with your first frost date, which will usually happen in the fall or winter. I say usually because ours was actually in winter this year, I think. It was right around the solstice. So use your observe and interact. I can't remember the exact Google search terms that I used when I looked it up, but I did something like daily temperatures, and then I used AccuWeather. And AccuWeather will have a chart for your area that has the high and the low every day, and you can look up specific months and years on there. So if you want to flip back that way too, to just kind of verify your area, that's another way to observe and interact. So what do your last and first frost dates tell you? For one thing, they tell you when you can put out your spring starts. That's going to be determined by your last frost date. So my frost date, as it comes up when I look it up, is March 17th. Last year on this property, we had a frost on April 20th. The year before that, on this property, we had a frost in the second week of April, but I don't remember exactly the date. So I know that even though my average last frost shows up as March 17th, I'm not going to put out anything especially frost tender until mid-April, and then I'm going to mulch it well. I hate pollen. And then your first frost is the one that falls in the fall or the winter, and it tells you when your plants are going to die. Now, of course, this goes with your USDA zones. This is how it ties back into that other video that I did on Friday. If it's a zone 5 plant and you're growing in zone 9, it's not going to freeze unless you have a freak event. The time between your last frost and your first frost is your growing season. So mine is roughly 240 days. I know everybody with short growing seasons just wanted to kick me, and it's okay, I understand. Friends in Florida who still have tomatoes, so I get it. But it also means that we don't get to rest when we have a long season. But what your growing season tells you, your number of days in your growing season is, let's imagine that you live in a place where you have a 70-day growing season. First of all, I'm really sorry. That's awful. But it means that you're not going to start a tomato seed in the ground, have it grow, and produce you a big 2-pound tomato before your first frost. My 240-ish days means that between frosts, that's how many days I can grow food or whatever plants. Now the other side, the side where it's to have a long growing season, aside from the not getting much rest problem, is that some plants need cold. Down here, we don't grow hardneck garlic, because hardneck garlic needs to be cold for a couple of months, and we don't get cold enough for it to get that. Now, there's a cheat. Yes, cheat codes at More Prana Gardens. Refrigerator. If you want to grow something that will fit in a refrigerator and needs to be cold to produce, you can stick it in the fridge and then plant it. I've heard of people putting hardneck garlic in the refrigerator for 3 months and then planting it, and then they actually were able to grow it. So that is something to think about, a way to work around. And that is one of the curses of a long growing season, is that we don't get to have some of the things that they can grow where it gets cold. I know that this is going to seem quick, but that's all. That's all there is to it. Your last frost is when your plants can go out. Your first frost is when they're probably done, depending on your zone, depending on the tolerances of your plant. That's about it. You just use it to plan your growing season. I'm going to throw that USDA growing zone video up here. And other than that, later, y'all.